Good morning. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? Well, what a crazy 24 hours that has been. First came the news that Marks and Spencer is appealing against Michael Gove's decision to block the demolition of its store on London's Oxford Street. I wish them every success with that. If ever there was anybody's nose I'd like to put out a joint, it would be Michael Gove. Then we heard, unfortunately, that workers were being sent home at Squibb Group and that they'd pulled off a number of sites up and down the country. You can read more about that over on Construction Inquirer this morning. Obviously, terrible news. And I've already had several calls and emails and LinkedIn messages as well from former Squibb employees seeking alternative employment. Obviously, we will do our level best to help them in any way that we can. And then late last night, our relatively new Demolition Insider website picked up its 1,000th subscriber. I've got to be honest, I wasn't even checking subscriber numbers, and then we had our 1,000th, so I'm delighted with that. And I've checked again this morning. We've picked up another 20 or so since then. Now, I'm not going to try to sell you a subscription to Demolition Insider. For one thing, it's free, so there's no point in trying to sell it. You can choose to pay if you wish, but there's no need. But for another thing, it seems to be growing quite nicely organically, just purely by word of mouth. However, there is one thing that I would really like to point out. Some years ago, I was forced to switch off the comments on demolitionnews.com, mainly because of abuse and harassment from one single guy. Because Demolition News is an open website, my only option was either to put up with the abuse or just switch off the comments entirely. Demolition Insider is different. Because it's a subscription-only website, I have the ability to ban individuals that step out of line in any way. So I'm hoping that won't be necessary, but it does mean that all of the content over on Demolition Insider is open for comments and feedback, a bit like this show in some ways. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, then you will find a link to it in the chat. I do have a button for that. It's that one. There we are. Demolition Insider. If you are tempted to select the paid subscription, please don't fight the urge too hard. I'm not too proud to accept donations. However, please feel free to select the free option instead. I know times are hard and we're all tightening our belts right now. Either way, we'd love to have you, and probably even more so, we'd love to have your comments and feedback on the content over there. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of November. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Volvo affords a glimpse of an autonomous future. We're travelling back in time with JCB once again. Think machine guidance is for big dozers, then prepare to think again. And we get to see one of the new Manitou skid steer loaders in action this time. Plus, your excavator. Would you like it with wheels or tracks? Or both? We'll come back to that, but first we're going to peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1675, King Charles II adjourned Parliament, and it didn't resume until February 1677. Almost 2 years. Imagine that, a whole year off from politicians. Bliss, I would say. In 1928, Bolero by Maurice Ravel was first performed publicly. If you don't know your classical music, that's the one that Torval and Dean skated to in the Olympics way back when. In the purple. I'm sure you remember. This is going to be the deal of the century, or the last century at least. In 1955, Sun Records sold Elvis Presley's contract to RCA Records for $35,000. I bet they were kicking themselves for years over that. On this day in 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald while driving in an open-top motorcade in Dallas. Of course, that's assuming you believe the official version of events. In 1968, the Beatles released their only double album, known as the White Album. In 1986, Mike Tyson became the youngest ever heavyweight champion, stopping Trevor Berbick in just 2 rounds in Las Vegas. In 1990, Margaret Thatcher announced her resignation as British Prime Minister. In 1995, the movie Toy Story was released, and what a corker it is. And in 2003, now I'm saying this as a football fan, know nothing about rugby, but in 2003, England won the Rugby World Cup in Australia as Johnny Wilkinson dropped that goal. Yes, that goal. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you very quickly of our question of the day. Yeah, today's question comes from our main man, Mr. Jim Tunes Turner, and it really is a bit of a thinker. Jim's question is this: have you achieved your life's goals? Now, personally, I'm not a big believer in life goals. If my own life is anything to go by, it's not a straight line from where you are to where you want to be. Mine's kind of meandered a bit. I'd still like to believe that there's a good book left in me, but I'm not done with work yet either. That being said, I do have 4 fantastic children, a wife that I adore, even though she would suggest otherwise. But in answer to the question, my personal take is no, I don't think I'm done quite yet. I've still got things I'd like to do. I still think I've got a bit more to give. But what about you? Have you achieved your life's goals? Love to hear from you about that. Let us know in the chat, and we'll be right back to that at the end of the show. But talking of shows, should we start one? I think we probably should. Yeah, we recently brought you a short film featuring Tara. You remember Tara? Volvo's autonomous machine system. Film went down very well. People seem to like it. So well, in fact, that I went in search of more details on the system. And those fine folks at Volvo did not disappoint. Not only is there a 3-minute film, the one that I'm about to play you, there is actually a 30-minute explainer video available on the YouTube channel. So while I'm playing you the short version right now, I will send you a link to the longer film in the chat. But once again, here's Tara.
A new dawn is emerging in the quarry industry. The autonomous and electric revolution is on its way.
Welcome to our new demo facility in Volvo Customer Center in Eskilstuna. Here, and since beginning of 2022, we are testing the core capabilities of our electric autonomous transport system, Tara.
This facility is equipped with the latest 5G and 4G telecommunication, plus an excellent infrastructure to operate the Tara in a professional and safe way.
What we do concretely here is to run a fleet of 4 machines in a production-like setup, reproducing the condition of a small quarry. We have a loading spot, dumping spot, as well as a charging station, and also different hauling routes and different inclination, so that we can test both the TF15 machines and all the autonomous functionalities.
Making the Tara system work involves many innovative technologies. Comprehensive stress tests are therefore made to the electric driveline and the onboard and offboard automation systems to help us identify and solve possible initial issues.
So the goal is to take over the complete production and improve the productivity. But more important than that is to reduce CO2 emission and further improve the site safety.
Besides the ongoing validation work in Eskilstuna, we work with our first customer, Holcim Switzerland, implementing an entire Tara fleet in one of their limestone quarries.
All of the information and experience we collect through those activities are very important for our scaling ambitions, so that the system performance and uptime will meet our customers' expectations. I believe the tower revolution will change the hauling business because it is electric, autonomous, without compromising on the high Volvo safety standard. It is natural for Volvo to drive the change in this industry because our mission is to deliver sustainable transport and infrastructure solutions. But this is not just a vision for the future. It's here, today.
Yeah, I've actually been there. That big glass-fronted building, I've been in there, had a nice cup of coffee in there with some of the Volvo team when I was up in Eskilstuna about this time last year, I think it was. Even longer ago. Now, obviously, our question of the day today is, have you achieved your life's goals? We'll come back to that properly at the end of the show. But Gary Muirhead, morning Gary, all the way from Tenerife, says that is one of my life's goals, is to visit the Volvo facility. See, you could do a really good round trip, couldn't you? Go to Volvo in Sweden, and while you're there, pop over and see your friends at Steel Wrist. What a fantastic couple of days that would be. Dan Cullen, however, is not so convinced. No, that's not my cuppa. How would that work in areas with bad Wi-Fi and with people losing jobs? Not effectively efficient as it's battery operated. It is battery operated, but you would have seen the charging station that they have there. With each cycle, that machine goes round. It is charged on the go, effectively on the go. It stops for about, I think I was told about 70 seconds or something like that. That's enough charge and it just keeps going round and round and round. Wi-Fi, easily overcomable. There are portable Wi-Fi stations now, so not a problem at all. However, people being put out of work is a concern. Graham Footy Williams says also puts people out of work not driving dump trucks. You're absolutely right. Dan Cullen, how long does battery charge last and how much downtime on charging? Again, Volvo have taken a very different attitude to this. And I do wonder if they have actually come up with the answer as far as charging is concerned. We're all concerned with trying to get a full day out of a machine. And it's a valid concern because we are talking about, certainly with some machines, prime movers, excavators and that kind of thing, where you're talking about working them 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, just flat out. And the idea of charging in the middle of the day is a concern. With that, the way that Volvo have got that set up is it's loaded, it dumps, and on the way back, it's charged. It loads, it dumps, and so the battery never, ever, ever deteriorates. It is constantly running at full charge. And with a hauling solution, particularly when you're talking about a fast charge, and bearing in mind, I think one of the things to consider here is if you're talking about a hauling situation like we are there, you're talking about a fixed location, almost certainly, a mine or a quarry. So to put in a charging station between face and dumping area, not a problem. You could do that. You could have the machines loaded, dump, and on their way back, they get a blast of juice, and then they carry on. Mick Norton, so we'll come back to that, but yes, he's got something to say on the subject of life goals. Andy Bullock, good morning, Andy. Good of you to join us. The dump truck has more intelligence than some of the human counterparts I've come across. I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah, and they don't take sick days, and they don't arrive with hangovers, and they don't abuse drugs, and so on. It does feel sometimes on this show like we are actually watching the future unfold before our very eyes, but we're about to take a break from looking forward to take a more extended look back. So I'll play this first, and then I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Right. Those fine folks at JCB, you know those fine folks at JCB, just up the road. 150 miles. Love them to death. They've apparently realized that their film archives are filled with pure 100% 24-karat gold. Because over the past few months, the company has been releasing some superb footage from way back when, and we've got another one of those for you right now. The film is a little bit longer than our usual fare because, maybe life moved a little bit slower back then. Now, let me see if I can find it on my hard drive because it's a big old lump. Let's have a look. I think here we go.
JCB, with its factory in Staffordshire, England, is Britain's largest manufacturer of earth-moving machinery. JCB is best known for its purpose-built excavator loader, of which more are sold than any other make outside North America. However, they also manufacture crawler excavators, crawler loader shovels, and wheeled loading shovels. 4 different excavator loader models are currently produced: the 2D, 3, 3C, and 3D, each one progressively larger than the other, but each retaining similar styling lines and technical features. Of the 4 models, it is the 3C which is the most popular. The machine is equipped with a front shovel and a rear-mounted excavator or backhoe. A cab is provided to protect the operator from the weather and to create an acceptable working environment. Much of what has just been said could be applied to any make of excavator. Where JCB is so different is in the provision of a massive main frame to hold the loader arms, engine, transmission unit, excavator, cab, hydraulic fluid and fuel tanks. This integral chassis is exclusive to JCB and is one of the major reasons for the strength and resulting success of these machines, each of which is powered by a 70 horsepower 4-cylinder diesel engine, driving through a gearbox, giving 10 forward and 2 reverse gears to the rear axle. Torque converter transmission is also available. To take the high static and shock loads imposed by the powerful front loader, a massive forged front axle with large diameter kingpins and hubs is used. The loader bucket is of large capacity. To obviate the need for mechanical level indicators when using this bucket, the built-in spill plate is parallel to the toe plate and acts as its own indicator. The replaceable toe plate is of hardened, wear-resistant alloy steel, and bucket teeth are an optional fitment. In line with the company's policy of simplified design, the front loader arms are uncomplicated, and being made from welded steel pressings are both strong and durable. The bucket crowd linkage is the simplest possible, whilst retaining good rollback angles and tear-out forces. Loader arm maintenance is greatly reduced because there are only 12 pivot pins, all of which are induction hardened to ensure maximum wear resistance. The large diameter hydraulic rams are double acting, giving exceptionally high lifting capacities, while all pipe and hose work is positioned to minimize the risk of damage. Reliability is emphasized by the rugged, heavy-duty wheels, specially designed for this JCB range of machines. The excavator unit is attached directly to the rear frame of the machine by the massively constructed cast king post and carriage. A rack and pinion slewing unit, set at the base of the king post, gives the advantage of constant slewing torque throughout the arc of its movement. This slewing mechanism is totally enclosed to prevent damage when on site. To create a stable platform for excavating, JCB make use of vertical stabilizers in which the rams are well protected. These are able to level the machines on a maximum slope of 9 degrees, while the pivoted foot plates maintain even ground pressure. This gives greater stability and minimizes damage to road surfaces. All JCB excavator loaders have the ability to offset the excavator from the center line of the machine for digging in confined positions. The hydraulic clamps which lock the king post carriage to the frame rails are operated from within the cab. Both boom and dipper are constructed of fabricated steel pressings and are well dimensioned for strength and reliability. Considerable use is made of castings in the high stress areas, such as boom base, boom ram pivot, and boom nose pivot. The bucket linkage can be fitted in 2 positions, giving either high breakout forces or a large crowd angle for load retention. The standard excavating buckets are available in various widths and are fitted with forged teeth and side cutters. In addition to the range of standard buckets, a large number of specialized attachments are also available. To prevent damage, ram rods are chromium plated. dipper and bucket rams have a specially designed end damping system. The cushioning effect of this system protects the rams, pivots, and structure from shock loads. A machine may be the best in the world, but its performance will only be as good as the operator, and the operator will usually only be as good as the conditions under which he works. It is with this in mind that JCB have gone to considerable lengths in designing the cab controls and seating to give the operator the most pleasant environment in which to work. All controls are readily to hand. The seat is fully adjustable and of saloon car comfort. This saloon car comfort includes such features as interior light and cigar lighter. Operation of the front loader on the 2D, 3 and 3C is controlled by the use of a single lever on the right-hand side and to the front of the operator. A 3-spool valve block, which was fitted as standard on the JCB 3D, is optional on the others and provides an additional hydraulic service and hydraulic self-leveling. The excavator is controlled by a 2-lever system in which each lever controls 2 operations. This is without doubt the simplest and easiest form of control that can be offered. Finally, the part of the machine that is seldom seen, the hydraulic circuit. This is designed in accordance with the JCB philosophy of reliability and efficiency. Part of the hollow section of the hydro chassis is used as a hydraulic tank and provides both a large capacity and a large cooling area. Hydraulic power is provided by an engine-driven gear pump. Simplicity of design and low maintenance requirements of these pumps match the reliability and efficiency of all JCB hydraulic systems. All these advanced features, purpose-built into the JCB excavator loader, provides every operator with a comfortable, stable machine of immense strength and reliability. These features, coupled with rapid after-sales service, account for the worldwide popularity of all JCB machines.
Pretty good, right? Love the 1970s porn music, and I also like the enunciation. I if I can remember, I might actually make a note and put it on my screen somewhere. Every time I mention a wheeled excavator in the future, I'm going to call it a wheeled excavator. Very good video, says Ken Hatcher. Thank you very much indeed, Ken. No, nothing to do with me, but you imagine what the JCB archives look like. We were given some access to some of it back when they were celebrating one of their birthdays. It was 75 years or something, or 70 years, but there's an awful lot more to come apparently. The advert wouldn't be made today. Lighting the fag and look at the hair. I was looking admiringly at the hair and the sideburns, but no, the cigarette. It's a big deal back then. If you watch the JCB video that we showed you just a couple of weeks ago, the guy had to have his cigarette lighter. A big deal. Yeah. Now, from the industry and machines of yesteryear, which is what we were just looking at, we're going to be looking at something very much of the present, and we'll be right back after this. If you were here on Monday, you will recall that we brought you details of the new skid steer loader models from telehandler specialist Manitou. The video explained a lot of detail, but didn't really show the machines in action. So we're about to put that right now. Yeah, I have to say, machine looks even better in action. Manitou UK, if you are watching, and if you've, in answer to Dan Cullen's question, are these here yet? I'm not sure, but if they are, Manitou UK, please, I'd like to take a spin in one, and I've got a funny feeling that our friend Dan would like to take a spin as well. Gary Muirhead says, no beacons in that country, amber or green. My guess is that was actually shot in France. Would make perfect sense given the fact that Manitou is French. And Mick Norton has intriguingly said, Mark, check your LinkedIn for a classic JCB 3CX lifelong ambition. I've just checked. I've got it. And while I'm playing the next video, I'm going to upload it to the show so that people can see it when we get round to the chat at the very end. So, should we get back onto track? Because I've gone off at a tangent again. Yeah, let's have this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Now, maybe it's just me, but when I think of machine guidance systems on dozers, I tend to think of big machines, Cat D6 or above. But as you're about to see, these systems are equally suitable for machines of a more modest size too. Pretty smart setup. I think you'll agree. I do wonder though about the finished accuracy on a machine of that size. I would imagine that's a bit more inclined to bounce a little on a machine that size. Wonder what that does to the finish tolerances. But let me know. What do you think? We've got something really weird and wonderful for the last clip of the day. We'll be doing that right after this.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
Life is filled with decisions. Should you be married or should you remain single? Should you have children or no children? Do you prefer tea or coffee, Coke or Pepsi, Labour or Conservative? I can't help you with any of those, but if there is one question with which I can offer you a bit of assistance. If your choice is between wheels and tracks on your excavator, why not just have both? Now, not suggesting that's going to be suitable for everything, and I'm going to ask you, is that the best of both worlds or a jack of all trades and master of none? Let me know what you think. But the idea of being able to move a machine on wheels to get it from one place to another and then go onto tracks for stability and everything else, I can see the sense. And Dan Cullen says, no, not great. Wheels would be in the way. You're probably right. But let me know. Let me know what you think. Now, we are going to go on to the question of the day in just a moment. But let me see. No, I'll tell you what. I'll finish the show off, and then I'll show you the photograph that Mick Norton has very kindly sent us. So that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into the chat to see what you're all saying today, talk about your life goals and various other bits and pieces. If you can't stick around for that, and you really should, but if you can't stick around, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues, and I will see you very soon. But if you have the time and the inclination, please stick around, because I'll be back with the Craic after this. Good morning, all. How the devil are we doing? Now, I did say that I had a photograph from our friend Mick. We're talking about life goals. This is kind of an end of life goal. I'd quite like to go out like this. Yes. Undertaker walking in front of a 3CX with me coffin stuck in the front. That's not in a coffin, obviously, but my wife is probably still in the chat. That's how we arrived at our wedding reception, in a JCB 3CX. I won't bore you too long, because I'm sure I've told this story before, but my mother-in-law had booked a very fancy Bentley, which took us from the church to a place called Nonsuch Park, which is about half a mile away from where I'm sat right now. And that was where we were having the wedding reception, at Nonsuch Manor. But we pulled into the grounds of Nonsuch Manor, and we were hijacked by all my colleagues from Contract Journal and Plant Managers Journal, held us up at gunpoint. They were plastic guns, and they were wearing really silly plastic masks. And they basically loaded myself and my good lady into a 3CX JCB. That's how we arrived at our wedding reception. Based on that would be a pretty good way to check out, I would say. Thanks for sending us that, Mick. Now, let me go over to the chat, and we're going to go right the way back to the very beginning. I did say happy hump day to everyone. I hope you're all having a good day as I am. Yeah. 1,000 subscribers. We've done no advertising on Demolition Insider. It's been purely by word of mouth, and we've got 1,000 and some subscribers now. Growing very nicely. Really quite pleased with that. So thank you for all of those. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you're not, you should be. It's good. Really. Dan Cullen, good morning. Morning, Dan. On his way back to Basingstoke, I understand. Apparently he was heading off to London to work there, and his employer has said, no, turn around, go back the other way, go to Basingstoke, which is where he is right about now. Glenn Johnston's in the house. Good morning, Glenn. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Hope you're fit and well today. Whereabouts are you today, Glenn? Let us know. Now we know where Gary Muirhead is. He's probably sat by a pool, nursing a hangover, sporting the budgie smugglers, and probably enjoying life enormously. Morning, Gary. Thank you very much indeed for joining us all the way from Tenerife. Not necessary, but you're very, very welcome. Andy Dalvell says, sounding like me, good morning, one and all. Yeah, good morning to you as well, Andy. Hope you're fit and well. Ken Hatcher is in the house. No Breakfast Show is complete without the mighty Ken Hatcher. Morning, Ken. He's got Welsh weather. He's always got Welsh weather. That's what comes of being in Wales. Dan Cullen says, yes, happy hump day. And there he is, travelling to Basingstoke as clients change their mind. Yes, clients do that, don't they? As do customers and as do wives, in my experience. Jim Turner's here as well. Morning, Jim, and thank you so much for your question of the day. As I say, a real... I'll tell you a quick story. And I remember thinking, how could you possibly live your life like that? My wife's sister, morning, Jane, if you're watching, my wife's sister was one of those who at about, I would guess, 19, 20 years old, laid out her life plan. You know, I want to be married. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I want to be married by 25, first child at 26. I want to be this by 30. And so I've never done any of that. You know, career-wise, I've just meandered from one thing to another. I've got along with the flow of life, to be honest. But life goals, I wonder if I might have achieved more if I'd actually bothered to set some in the first place. Did anybody else actually set life goals? Not me, but hats off to you if you did, and hats off even more if you actually managed to pull them off. There is Gary Muirhead continuing his quiet relationship with my wife. Gary, you don't know what you're letting yourself in for, mate. She's hard work. She's very needy, mate. Sorry, Ruth. Graham, Footy Williams is here as well. Good morning, bro. Good morning to you as well, Footy. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Chris Ford is in the house. Stand by your beds. Chris Ford is here. There is my wife, as I say, continuing her online relationship with Gary. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday. It looks amazing. Yeah, my wife has been away on holiday probably 4 times this year, and yet anybody goes on holiday and she is racked with jealousy. Never enough. So there you are. There is Jim Turner's question today. Have you achieved your life goals? I'm going to say no, I have not. There is Footy saying, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Muirhead, he's having a fantastic time. Yes, I'm sure you are. But you are coming back to the snow bomb. Oh, imagine that. I mean, I don't know what I think Gary said earlier this week it was 27 degrees wherever he was. Imagine getting back. You know that feeling where you arrive in Torremolinos or somewhere, you get off the plane and you're hit with that wall of Spanish heat and you think, oh, isn't that fantastic? I'm on holiday and that heat is fantastic. Imagine that in reverse. Imagine coming from 27 degrees to a Glaswegian snow bomb. Oh God, you'd want to threaten the pilot to take you back again, wouldn't you? Could you look at your WhatsApp sometime, please? Footy, I can only apologise. My WhatsApp, I found myself, obviously we've got the Breakfast Show WhatsApp, but I'm a member of about 1,057 bloody groups on the damn thing. I do need to trim them out. So my WhatsApp is so busy that I regularly turn off notifications, only for hours or sometimes days at a time. But I turn them off because it's just like I'm being inundated. I receive about 120 emails a day on average, and I think that's excessive. But WhatsApp, it's like, I mean, sometimes I put my phone by my bed, and bearing in mind it's bedtime or early in the morning, and I can just hear the vibration like, brr, brr, brr. Sorry, I will have a look. Promise. Mick, not go back to... See, if anybody is here today that wasn't here yesterday, that will make no sense whatsoever. But Mick Norton is saying, good morning, Mark. Turtle sarnie at the ready. Yum. And he did actually send me a photograph of him tucking into some turtle back in the 70s. I've got to say, didn't look particularly appetizing. Would I eat it? You Damn right I would. Good morning to you, Mick. Thank you very much indeed. Morning also is Mark Whiting. Morning to you as well. And there is... is that a Freudian slip from Andy Bullock there? Apparently Andy Bullock is mooning. You actually have your rear end out, do you, Andy? Thank you so much. You just made my morning. I'm almost tempted to do it back to you, but I'm not, because it's a family show. But thank you so much for that. Something I think Graham Footy Williams has sent me something about BMW and hydrogen. I also saw earlier this week that Caterpillar have leapt aboard the whole hydrogen thing. They are working on some hydrogen engines as well. Have a look at cat.com. It's all a bit wordy, to be honest. I couldn't be bothered to go through it. So go and take a look. We're getting into the question of the day. Ken Hatcher says he's not sure if he's achieved his life goals. And I don't know if you ever do. Do you ever know when you've done enough? I know, and I don't want to define what I do by what I do for a living, but even when I've written something that I believe to be really, really good, which happens occasionally, I'm always thinking, I could go a bit further. You know, if you achieve your life goals, do alarms go off and there's confetti and things? I don't know if it works like that. Question today, Gary Muirhead says, not yet. Still have a couple of things I'd like to achieve. One thing would be to meet and greet the wonderful people of this show. You're setting the bar very, very low on your life's goals there, Gary. Yeah, but we do need to do that. I'm working on a trip to Scotland as we speak. It's all on the QT at the moment. And if this one, bearing in mind, I've said this 2 or 3 times, if this one doesn't come off, I'm just going to go to the train station and get on a train to Scotland. And never mind the fact that I need to be there. I'm just going. I promise, Gary, soon. Glenn Johnston, have you achieved your life goals? No, still working on it, says Glenn. I think I'm probably the same. Dan Cullen says, not achieved. Thought I'd be married but in time for 40 and set my own business up and running. Yeah. Life passes you by, doesn't it? What is the Ferris Bueller quote? Life passes you by. If you're not careful, or it passes you by. I can't remember. If anybody remembers the quote from Ferris Bueller, the very end of Ferris Bueller, I'd like to hear from you. There we are, Gary Muirhead. One of my life's goals is to visit that Volvo facility. And, you know, I listen. I realise that it comes at some, and if not considerable expense. But you imagine, right? So imagine you run a big plant hire company, or a big demolition company, or a big groundworks contractor, or whatever it might be. And, you know, maybe you're in the market for a bunch of excavators, let's say. So you put the word out and, you know, you get the phone call to go and pay a visit up to JCB, and then Volvo invite you over to Eskilstuna, and Caterpillar invite you to Malaga, and so on down the line, all trying to win your business. And listen, I've been on dealer trips and customer trips for these things, and, you know, yes, they go and they have a good time, and, you know, they kick a few tires, and then they go down the bar and they're wined and dined and occasionally 69'd as well. But it doesn't seem to matter much to most of them. It's just, there's some diggers. Let's have a chat. Now let's go to the bar where you, Mr. Manufacturer, are buying the drinks. Imagine that same group if it was you lot. Imagine us arriving en masse in Malaga or Eskilstuna. The fun that you guys would have. You know, never mind going to the bar, although I'm sure that's where we'd all end up. Never mind all of that. Just here is one of everything, or pretty much everything, that Volvo makes. Go enjoy yourselves. Be a whole different experience, wouldn't it? Yeah. Volvo, Caterpillar, anybody, if you're listening. I've got an audience here. They'd love to come and have a play. Dan Cullen, still not convinced by all things autonomous, and as Graham says, yeah, potentially putting people out of work. How long does the battery charge last? How much downtime on charging? Hardly any. And again, I think I'm not acting as Volvo salesman here, but I think one of the things I admire the most is the fact that they've taken a completely different slant on the whole haulage business. If you if you imagine a quarry, let's a medium-sized quarry. So you've got a big excavator or maybe a face shovel, and maybe you've got 2, 3, possibly even 4 dump trucks. And you're loading, truck goes away, another truck arrives, you're loading, away it goes. So you've got that constant cycle. But there will be times during that course of things where the excavator has enough time to tidy up where he's sat, reposition himself on the bench, and so on down the line. So that is effectively time when something else could be happening. And as it stands at the moment, that time is spent for the truck to go from the face or the loading area all the way to the dump area or the crusher or whatever it might be, and then make his way back again. What Volvo are suggesting with those miniature haulers or smaller haulers, because they're not that small, is rather than having 3 or 4, maybe you'd have 8, maybe you'd have 10. So you've got a constant cycle going round. There's always a machine ready to be loaded, but at the same time, there is always a machine being charged. So it's charge and load and dump, and charge and load and dump. I don't think battery charge length of time comes into it. I don't think downtime and charging comes into it. And I don't think length of charge either comes into it. I think they've overcome that. As I said during the show, I think one of the issues, obviously, is the fact that quarries and mines are static. You could, on the whole road, place a charging station, and it could probably stay in the same place for the next 5 or 10 years. A construction site does not have that luxury. I fully accept that. But I do think Volvo they haven't just thought outside the box. They've got out of the box, set fire to it, and thrown it away. I think the way that they've approached that is absolutely phenomenal, and it's actually out at work. You saw Holcim up in, I think they were in Sweden, are actually using it. We saw earlier this week there's an American customer having a play with it as well. So yeah, interesting times. Question of the day: Mick Nook says, "Imagine your lifetime goal was full employment as a plant operator, whilst facing the future of autonomous and electric site vehicles." I wrote something a day or two ago, and it is available. I won't bore you with where it is, but it is available. And I was writing about the fact that I've been doing the same job for, give or take, 35 years. And although I hadn't thought about it, and I genuinely hadn't, I've no great plans to retire or scale down or anything like that. But in the back of my head, I'd assumed, having got to, I'm 58 now, and having done 35 years doing largely the same job in different ways, but largely doing the same job, I had kind of assumed that writing about plant and demolition and stuff, having done it for 35 years, that would probably be enough to see me through to retirement. And then COVID. And all of a sudden, my career did that. It just went off to, and that's why I'm sat here talking to you via this medium. You don't know what's around the corner. And I do wonder, I know this is something we talk about every time there is a downturn or a recession. But imagine that. Imagine you are, and the very fact that a lot of you turn up and watch every single one of these shows, you're not just employed in the industry. I think you're passionate about the industry. You know, you don't just drive a digger, you like diggers. You would give up your weekend to go and have a look at one. You'll go to exhibitions to go and have a look at them and stuff. Imagine waking up one day and thinking, somebody has just severed my connection with this industry. I've got to go and get myself a job in, I always say, stacking shelves in Sainsbury's. You're all better equipped than that, and there are other jobs out there. But imagine, look at my example. I've done 35 years. Imagine after 35 years behind the levers, where you've seen it all, you've done it all, you've got the T-shirt, and then somebody says, your presence is no longer required, and you have to go and do something else. Peter McKenna, our friend Peter McKenna, is applying for jobs outside of the industry at the moment. Seems like a waste of talent, but imagine the impact of that on you as a person. If you as a person, what is your job? I'm a digger driver. What is your passion? Diggers. Well, you're not a digger driver anymore, and you can keep your passion because you're not going to be exposed to it because you're now delivering milk for a living or whatever it might be. Absolute kick in the... I'm going to go with teeth, but you know where I'm going. Andy Bullock says those auto trucks wouldn't do well on different ground, methinks. You're right, and that they are designed for what they are designed for. But I think that's one of the things that I can't actually think of how to explain where I'm coming from on this. But I think, given the whole sustainability thing and the whole need for alternative fuels. I think we almost have to forget what went before. And if in order to if in order to safeguard men completely, we have got to take men off site, and I mean women as well, we've got to take people off site and make things autonomous, then in order for them to be autonomous, we need to approach things in a different way. We can't have the kind of crappy sites that men are forced to trudge across, with great ruts and divots and all that kind of thing. Something or somebody or somehow we're going to have to make that silky smooth. Yes, it will require a paradigm shift, but that paradigm shift is already happening. I'll liken it to electric. Hydrogen is a whole different matter, although equally complex, I would say. You think about electric, it's not, we've had 100 odd years of filling our machines with diesel. They work for a day, and then you refuel them, and you work another day, and so on down the line. If we do away with diesel, and it will happen, maybe not in my work career, but it will happen. If we are going to do away with diesel, we are going to have to adopt new ways of doing things. And if that new way of doing things is we go electric, and if by going electric it means we have to take an hour and 20 minutes for our lunch break, tough titties. That's what we have to do. That's the new paradigm in which we find ourselves. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. They don't look like they're designed for particularly rough terrain. Let's do away with rough terrain. If we are doing away with man, which is an absolutely enormous shift in the industry, then I'm fairly sure we can do away with bumpy bloody ground. Chris Ford says that dump truck has more intelligence than some of the human counterparts I've come across. One of the things, you got a glimpse of it, but in that facility at Eskilstuna, it's there as a bit of a demonstration area. So they've got 4 machines constantly on cycle. And I don't know if they're running 24 hours, but they are going for a long, long time. But they've also got a bank of TV screens. So they're watching the haul road, they're watching the dump area, they're watching the load area, but they're also watching onboard TV cameras to pursue the things around as well. Imagine that as your work area of the future. Rather than being sat in a machine pulling levers and pouring with rain outside, instead of that you're sat there with a nice cup of coffee in a nice air-conditioned office watching these things go around and making sure everything's hunky-dory. It's going to require somebody to do it, and who better to do it than somebody that's actually pulled the levers and knows how these things work. That's my point. Question of the day. Mick Norton says, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Very true. Very true. As I say, I never actually had a life goal, but I do believe I'm probably a more rounded human now than I was at 18 years old. Maybe. Probably using 20 to 8% of the battery. That's the way that they last the longest. I don't think, and I wish I had my notes with me, I'm fairly sure I was told that those machines up at Eskilstuna never ever go below 80% charge. I don't think they stop for a charge every circuit. I think it's every other circuit or every third or whatever it might be. But they are never more than 80% charged, or never less than 80% charged, rather. We're going back to the old wheeled machines from JCB. Great workhorses, yeah. And I did catch the tail end of the red bucket machines when I first started in the business. Haven't they come a long way, says Graham. Yeah, they certainly have. Love the great explanation of the machines. Yeah, do you know, one of the frustrations I have with this show, and there are lots of companies out there now producing video, but a lot of the videos they're doing now are real sort of whiz-bang of 30 seconds. And they look fantastic. They really do look fantastic. And maybe that's the idea. Maybe they look fantastic enough for you to pick the phone up to your local dealer and say, you need to tell me more because I didn't get the full picture from that. But why not? If you've gone to the trouble of putting a video crew out on site, explain the damn things. Take 3 minutes. Take 10 minutes if you need to. Makes my life easier. When you're watching 8-minute videos like you were with JCB, I was sat here drinking a cup of tea, watching the world go by. It's fantastic. Question of the day. My wife has said, question of the day, happy with my life, only wanted to get married and have children. This is very true. My father-in-law And I probably should hold it against him. I have forgiven him now, but my father-in-law at my wedding stood up and said, my daughter's ambition was to get married and to have lots of children. And he actually turned to me and he said, "Mark, do you have any idea just how many children she wants?" And I thought he was joking. And then we had 4. And she still wasn't all that happy about it. Thankfully, we bought a TV and all of that stopped. But yeah, she did achieve her life goal. I remember visiting the old factory before it was demolished and then taken to a new state-of-the-art factory for a wonderful tour and amazing lunch from a wonderful company, that's JCB. What I found interesting about that video is if you know the JCB world headquarters, there's still bits of that from the 70s that are, the road up and the bit by the lake and everything else. All of that still exists, but it's just been kind of maneuvered around. This guy could do a video now. He's very good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine if I was properly eloquent and erudite. Imagine how much better this show would be if I said wheeled excavator. You'd barely be able to contain yourselves, would you? Graham Footy Williams. That's known as Paddy's wheelbarrow. Yeah, it was. Bloody great footage tells folks exactly what's on offer. My point entirely. Yeah, my point entirely. Why not? As I say, if you've gone to the trouble of taking a video crew to film a machine, do the job properly. I mean, a voiceover on a video, peanuts, really is. Although probably more expensive if you have to go back to the 70s to get Mr. Wheeled Excavator on it. Can't beat an early morning yellow injection. I could totally agree. Some years ago, my local JCB dealer was dumping old VHS sales videos, some of which fell into my van. Isn't it weird how that happens? Now, I may have mentioned this before. If I have, stop me. But I was invited down to the old West Ham ground, the bowling ground down in Green Street in London, when Rye Demolition were taking it down. And we went off for the guided tour, and I saw the changing rooms and obviously the stands. I do believe I was the last person to kick a football on the hallowed turf there as well. But I also went into the press office. And the press office had a bunch of DVDs of old West Ham matches. They fell into my van, bizarrely. Yeah, weird how that happens. Andy Bullock says, I enjoyed the old days on JCB 180. Shame they got pushed out on a lot of work by rubber track mini diggers these days. Yeah, I'm still not entirely convinced. Let me be clear, I love me a mini excavator. Spent a lot of time working with the likes of Kubota. Do love me a mini excavator, and I do think as a dedicated machine, they're very, very good. But the versatility of a backhoe, I'm not sure we've replaced that. I really am not sure we've replaced that. And I know they've slightly fallen out of fashion, although I'm sure the likes of JCB and Case and Caterpillar would tell you otherwise. I don't think we're necessarily right. I still think the backhoe loader has a place. Somebody described it as a workhorse, and that's exactly what it was. A proper jack of all trades. Let's have a look. Oh yes, this is a comment from myself. I said a white steering wheel. Are there any machines out there now with a white steering wheel? I bet there's not. I can't think of one. If anybody can remember. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead says you could have a party inside that cab. It's massive. Yeah, and what it was massive, and wasn't it a bit like a shed? Very strong. We all have that lovely rounded glass and these lovely aesthetic curves that look like shed. Served the purpose though, and an awful lot better than sitting in the pouring rain, I have to say. Chris Ford says, keep spinning the seat, it unscrews itself eventually. It did bring to mind when he did it, I thought that'll stop in a second, and it kept going and going. Do you remember the old photo booths where you had to go and get your passport photo done, and the way to raise and lower the seat was to spin the damn thing? Reminded me of that. I wonder when they started fitting the forks on the front bucket. Good question, and I don't know the answer. Ken Hatcher, very good video. Yeah. See, we're on equipment manufacturers of the world. Listen to this. Listen to this. They don't give such details now. No, they don't. You should. You should. I know the Manitou one that we showed you earlier this week. I thought the guy was very thorough there. But yeah, we should have more explanation, I say. This advert wouldn't be made today. Light the fag and look at the hair. I was admiring the hair, mainly because he had some. Jim Turner says, top burners. Yeah, there's sideburns on the fella. Looked like he was out the band Supergrass. Does anyone remember Supergrass? Caught by the fuzz. Gaz Coombs was the fellow with the sideburns, if memory serves me correctly. Those were the days when operators were men and sheep were scared. I think that's a very Welsh thing. Sorry, Ken, but he's probably not here, so we can get away with it. Break over. He's gone. No beacons in that country, amber or green. As I say, I think that was probably filmed in en français, should I say? Yes, I did check my LinkedIn, and the coffin in the front bucket, fantastic. What a way to go out. Footy says, when are you putting on your new hat and got your new stuff coming out? Monday. It's not a major thing, but we had a bit of a glitch with the merch website. For some reason, it refused to display some of the things we wanted it to display. I think we've beaten it. I don't want to launch it midweek, so on Monday next week, new hat. This one is going into retirement. There'll be a new hat, and there's a new T-shirt as well. So yeah, watch this space. Jim Turner, who actually came up with the question in the first place, says this. Question of the day. No, not yet. Got to go where I want to be. Although I was just behind where I wanted to be by the time I was 40, only 1 year over. Own land by 40, and aim is to be financially stable, own a large farm, hydroelectric power plant, quarry and plant hire, a week-long vintage plant and machinery, and a section for new plant to show demonstration with the money raised going to charity. You make me feel like I'm lacking in ambition, Jim. I've got to be honest. I want to write a book. I want to write another book, but I want to write a bigger book. That's it. He wants his own hydroelectric power plant. Good luck to you, Jim. Good luck to you. Hope you achieve all of that and more. Dan Cullen not impressed by the Chinese machine with the wheels and the tracks. He reckons the wheels would be in the way. Chris Ford, question of the day. Will never achieve my life goals. Too busy trying to achieve one that another goes by. Yeah, I I can certainly relate to that. I can see a military option for the UHI tracked wheeled variant. Yeah, absolutely. Going back after I went to, where was I? Hamburg for the motor racing with Volvo, and I spotted an old Zettelmeyer wheeled dozer, which was developed purely for military applications. They wanted a dozer that they could road on the autobahns at something like 60 kilometers an hour. I'm fairly sure it said 60 kilometers an hour. Yes, why not? Why not? Dan still believes that the visibility would be hindered. You could well be right. If you can have a track machine, have a track machine. If you're going to have a duck. Two together doesn't work. Possibly. Gary Muirhead, do you still have your JCB teapot? Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not planning to pop along to Antiques Roadshow anytime soon. I mean, the thing's only 33 years old. 33 years old, had to do the math. So I don't suppose it's worth much financially. But bearing in mind the way that it arrived, and if you don't know the story, it arrived by helicopter on the day that I got married, because JCB heard belatedly that I was getting married. It has enormous sentimental value. And I have to say, we've moved house a couple of times in the last 5 or 6 years, and every time that is the one that goes on my wife's lap in the car rather than going in with all of the other goods and chattels as we move. Still waiting for the video. It shows you leaping into the chat. If you're like me, it will be a controlled fall. I don't even know where that came from. I'm going to leap gazelle-like into the chat. I have never leapt gazelle-like ever in my entire life. I just kind of stumble from one place to another, particularly now. No idea where that came from at all. Dan Cullen says, I get 300 to 500 messages on my WhatsApp, people wanting to join groups about 30 WhatsApp calls. It drives me mad. It really does. And what annoys me with it is, and this is not a dig at anyone here, we created our WhatsApp group for the Breakfast Show, and I'm glad we did, because there's been some fantastic interaction over there. But the problem with it is, not just the Breakfast Show one, but all the other groups that I'm a member of, people want to show you things all the time. So in the past, I might get an email, have you seen this video, or are you aware that so-and-so has done so-and-so? And that was fine. But now, on occasions, I will get 5, 6, maybe even a dozen versions of the same video. JCB have put a new video out, and everybody wants to tell me about it. I know. But bearing in mind my relationship with JCB and Lee Bear and Volvo and all these people, I know. But they all want to be the first to tell me about it. So as a result, my WhatsApp just buzzes and buzzes and buzzes and buzzes. And if you're trying to write an article, which I still occasionally do, I just hit the end notifications and just go into dark mode. So my apologies for the delays in getting back to you, Footy. I hope you understand. Time waits for no man, gone in the blink of an eye. Ah, yes, story of my life. Sod the drinks, I'd want to be on the testing ground. Yeah, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. I know there are a lot of people in very senior positions within contractors and plant hirers who absolutely love plant. But I don't think they love plant in quite the same way as those that drive them. I really don't. Andy Darvell says, when I was young, 5 to 10, I always wanted to be a bin man. I've done it and it's a great job. Start at 4 a.m, finish at 12 to 1, out to see the sunrise, good walk to keep fit. One of my mates at school who was, morning Steve, if you're watching, he won't be, but morning Steve, a guy called Steve Morris, who was one of the smartest people in my year at school. One of those that was academically good at everything. Good at English, good at maths, good at literature. He was just good, just a smart guy. He left school, same as I did. I went off to college, he went off to work. He married the younger sister of one of our classmates. Now, I've been married 33 years. He's probably been married 37, 38 years. He joined the Royal Mail and ended up at Parcel Force. And exactly as Andy has described there, he gets up at the crack of dawn, delivers all his parcels and what have you, and then he goes home. He's got a little 2 up, 2 down in a place called Carshalton, 5-6 miles away from where I'm sat now. Fully paid for. He goes on holiday to Jamaica twice a year. He's got Jamaican family and 2 children. He's got the car that he always wanted. I can't remember what he's got at the moment, but he's got the car he's always wanted. He's got the wife he always wanted. He's got the children he always wanted. And he's got to see his children growing up. And while, yes, I've enjoyed buzzing off to France and Germany and Italy and Spain and America and Japan, and he got to see his kids grow up. I think he probably made a pretty shrewd choice there, actually. Andy Dove, question of the day. First time I saw a high reach, made it my mission to get on one. Well, I've been on a few now, some very interesting different jobs. Fantastic seat to sit in, looking up in a tilting cab. I have to say, I do admire you for that. Looking at a thing and thinking, I fancy a piece of that. There is a very famous bit of interview with David Bowie. He's, as you probably know, he was never a high reach operator. But he went to see the Rolling Stones in concert in Brixton, which is where David Bowie came from. And he saw them, and obviously, the Rolling Stones back in the day were highly rebellious and what have you. And Mick Jagger with his long hair. And David Bowie apparently went, that's the job I want. And he kind of achieved it. Let's have a look. I got the badge last night for watching the show. Thank you. Badge? There's a badge? Don't know what that's about. Dan Cullen says, I was considering changing my career for a while until Ross came to the rescue. Yeah, absolutely. Chris Ford, on about having kids, we stopped having them, and then we found out what was causing them. Yeah, we did the same. And although I enjoyed what was causing them, I kind of enjoyed when they stopped. Still dabble from time to time. You get don't want to go down that road. Question 8. Andy Darvell says, one life goal I haven't completed yet is to get my private pilot's license. Got some hours under my belt in a Cessna 152. Don't know what that looks like. I've also flown a Robinson R-22 helicopter, fixed wing and flex wing microlights, a glider and a Tiger Moth. Bloody love aircraft and flying. I will get there. I have no doubt whatsoever that you will. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Andy Darvell spends a lot of his time in a high reach, and that's not enough. He then has to go even higher in a bloody helicopter. Okay. Dan Collins just landed in Basingstoke. Give my regards to Basingstoke. That JCB video was spot on, says Andy W. When did they start putting the 4-in-1 bucket on the 3CX? Lord alone knows. Yeah, I wish I had access to those parts of the archives. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for yet another fabulous show. Mr. and Mrs. Demolition. She contributes nothing. She makes the tea, actually. I can't say that. The Zettelmeyer wheel dozer was trialled by the Royal Engineers in 1961. Was it really? Was it really? How quickly they forgot. 16 years after they were at war with the Germans, they're buying German products. Do you have a Discord? Andy? No. And the reason we don't is quite simply, I didn't think anybody out there would A, know what a Discord was, or B, know how to use it. I've got to be honest, I struggle. I use Discord occasionally when I'm creating stuff in AI. Some of them only convert through Discord. But no, we don't. Maybe we should. I don't know. But as I say, we've got a WhatsApp group. One of the things that I'm really going to start promoting now is the fact that our Demolition Insider website is the fact that we can take and receive comments, so there is conversation going on there. But if that doesn't prove to be enough, Discord, it could well be. Andy Darvell, listen, it looks like I've misjudged you all, and for that I apologise. I've got Discord. It's pretty good. It is pretty good. It's a bit full on, is my take on it. Like when now let me try and think. I think it's I can't remember which AI platform it is. It might be DALL-E or something like that. When I'm creating an image, you tell it what you want, and it creates an image, and it then drops it into Discord, and then you can regenerate it to make it exactly how you want. But because Discord is so busy, you're looking at a screen there, and it's just going. Bloop, bloop, bloop. It's really, really hard to keep up with, and I don't honestly know if that will be any better than the situation I have at the moment with WhatsApp, but maybe. Yes. You see, the guy blames me for not getting paid for work he did because he accepted a job from my groups. And he thinks it's my problem. Yeah, that was going on WhatsApp yesterday. It's not your problem. It's not your problem in the same way that a recruitment agency, all you're doing is, here's a job, go and apply for it. Due diligence, and unfortunately, there are people out there that don't pay their bills, which is deeply frustrating for all concerned. But that's not your fault, Dan. And I do think, I can understand. I think I said to you on WhatsApp yesterday, I can understand the guy being as angry and as pissed off as he was because he's done an honest day's work and he's not been paid for it. Lashing out of you was the wrong thing to do, but I can understand his anger. Footy says, Dan, I thought about changing my career. Wouldn't know what to do because my reading will get in the way of a lot of jobs. Yeah, we've discussed that at length, and I'm sure we'll be doing so again at some point in the future. People, that is an hour and 16 minutes. These shows just keep getting longer and longer. There will come a time, I'm sure, where I start a show and just feed straight into the next one. Don't tempt me. I'm not doing 24 hours. Ignore what I just said. People, go and have a fantastic day, those of you that are still here, and some of you are. Look after yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow for more of the same. What is it today? It's Wednesday. Thursday. I'm going to say nearly the weekend. We're already halfway. But please, go and have a fantastic day. And stay safe, guys. Have a fantastic hump day. I fully intend to. My plan now is to shut this thing up, go and take my wife for a cup of coffee, and then I'm going to crack on with tomorrow's show. So please, join us. I don't know what's going to be on it. Never do. But it's half the fun, isn't it? See you tomorrow.